Hello, and thank you for joining us for Broncos Postgame Live. I am Phil Milani. We got a packed house tonight to talk about another disappointing game here for the Broncos as they fall 19-16 to the LA Chargers. I'm here with Todd Davis, Emmanuel Sanders, and Nick Ferguson. Let's go around the horn, guys. What are your thoughts on the loss here?
I'm just so frustrated with the offense. They keep putting the defense in bad position, and they were on the field a lot this game. They had 15-play drives, 14-play drives, and after every long drive, it'd be a 3-and-out. Or it'd be a big fourth down stop, then all of a sudden they get, a punt. Or it's a pick interception, you go 3 plays, 0 yards. What are we doing? I feel like we need to have more offense. There needs to be more big plays happening and generating more points scored.
Yeah, and for me, I look at the overtime. You got 3rd and 1. You got Latavius Murray, you give him the ball, he's averaging 3 or 4 yards a pop. You get to 3rd and 1, then you drop back and you pass the ball. When I'm thinking of that, okay, give him the ball again, but instead they pass. And then you go to the second drive at overtime, and the next thing you know, they're running the ball or passing the ball, So, for me, it's like the play call. I feel like it's kind of backwards, but I feel for Broncos fans. Obviously, they wanted Russell Wilson to come in and, win some games, but it hasn't happened yet. But for me, I look at it, too, as, give it some time as well, Give it some time. You got a new coach. You got a new quarterback. Just give it some time, and hopefully these guys start winning.
Listen, I'm with it, man. You give it some time, but time is running out. Okay, look, check out these stats in the first half. First half, Russell was 10 for 10 for 116 yards. Second half, 5 of 18 for 62 yards. What happened to the passing play? Greg Dulcich finally came back, caught a touchdown, and the tight ends disappeared. So once again, all of this, I don't want to say blame, but a lot of the attention will now shift on the offensive side of the ball.
All of the playmakers for the Broncos really struggled, especially in that second half. Cortland Sutton only had 2 catches for 14 yards in this one. Judy only 3 catches. Dulcich, 2 catches. It was a struggle for the Broncos there. No first downs by either team in overtime. Let's check out some of the highlights. We'll show you how things unfolded out there at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. The Broncos got off to a hot start. They had 11 days off before facing the Chargers in this one, and they were humming. First quarter, Russell Wilson escapes the pocket, and guys, this is what Russell Wilson is supposed to do. Use those legs. They find Jerry Jeudy for 37 yards, and then on the very next play, they didn't waste any time. It's Greg Dulcich, just activated off of IR, making his NFL debut in his hometown. Todd, what happened on this play?
Somebody didn't do their job, but that's not our fault. We take full advantage of that, and we're going to get those points.
Okay, he scores a touchdown, but guys, this is the Broncos. You knew it was going to come down to something. It's a tied game here in overtime. Things kind of a slugging away here, and then Montrell Washington gets bumped into by his own guy, P.J. Locke. That's a legal play, and then 39 yards here for the Chargers, and of course, he bangs it through the final. The Chargers win this one 19-16, the final. The Broncos have now lost 3 games in a row. You look at the total yards here. The Broncos just 73 yards on the ground, but I'm sorry, that's the Chargers. 73 yards on the ground. Just 160 yards passing for the Broncos, and then also time of possession there, way in favor for the Chargers. Talking about Russell Wilson, why do you think it is, Todd, that at the beginning of the game, 10 for 10, things look so good, and then he disappears out there?
Well, the beginning of the game, he was using his legs. That's what we've been asking for him to do the entire season. I feel like that's when he really got into a groove, and that's when he was really making things happen. That's when he's at his best. Using his legs, making people miss and be able to extend drives and plays. I even like the zone read option, making people respect his legs with him having the ability to pull it at any time. When Russ uses his legs, the Broncos will be successful.
You agree, Emmanuel? What do you see?
100%. When you think of Russell Wilson in Seattle, I don't see Russell as a pocket passer. I see, even on the touchdown play, you see him scooting up in the pocket, using his legs and darting the ball to the tight end. And that's what we want to see, as Broncos fans. That's what we want to see. We want to see that Russell magic. We don't, obviously, we want to be a pocket passer, but we these days, the quarterback position is being played totally different. You have to use your legs. You have to be able to extend plays. And I know Russell's getting older, and he probably want to be a pocket passer and this and that, but you got to use your legs to be able to win games. And so the rust that I saw today, obviously not in overtime, and sometimes it's the play calling too, but the rust that I saw today was an improvement, and I think that this was his best game as a Bronco so far.
Yeah, I would agree with Emmanuel. It was his best game, but the problem was I think it was the offensive line. There was a lot of pressure on Russell throughout the entire game, and I think that changed the type of calls that Nathaniel Hackett wanted to call for Russell. So when you cannot move the ball in the passing game and you cannot move a guy 1 yard in the run game, that becomes somewhat of an issue. But you're right. You got to get Russell out on the edge. That's where he's been his best.
They were juggling that offensive line all day. I mean, of course, Garrett Bowles done for the season with a broken leg. But on the right side, Cam Fleming got the start. But then Billy Turner comes in. He had 4 sacks. Did you think his shoulder was bothering him at all, Todd? I mean, he was cleared, was not on the injury report at the end of the week. But we know that he's been dealing with some stuff.
No, he looks good. I think he's a good player, and I think he fights through adversity. I think he's better when he faces adversity. So maybe he needs to be like a little bit more like under the radar, not knowing if he's going to play, and he'll come out and play well. Like they said, this was his best showing as a Bronco so far, so I look for him to improve on this night.
The Broncos, one of the lowest scoring teams, I think the lowest scoring team in the NFL, just 16 points again here tonight. Are you feeling better about this Broncos team? They've lost 3 games in a row. They've dropped to 2-4. As a fan, are you feeling encouraged by this, or are you're saying, hey, they got to
give me that Broncos offense in the first quarter? I think that's what everybody said. Give me that Broncos offense in the first quarter, not the Broncos offense that was in overtime. That offense, the play calling, it was shaky. And as a viewer and as a Broncos fan, you know, I think we're all thinking the same thing. On that 3rd and 1, I'm thinking run the ball. And it just seems like things are backwards. And obviously it's like you're watching the same game over and over. You see a repeat of all the games, and they just got to figure it out. And like I said, it's new coach, new quarterback. It's a lot of new pieces going around. You just got to kind of give it time. But hopefully they figure it out. But as of right now, I'm not optimistic that they will based off what I'm seeing.
Well, so here's one thing. You're the offensive guy here on the set. So, I mean, we keep talking about waiting for the offense to click and just kind of do certain things. If you know that you're having issues with your offensive line, wide receiving, play calling is an issue, at what point do you simplify things?
100%. And that's what they have to do. They have to simplify it. But I know sometimes we put it all on Rush, too. Oh, yeah, Rush, because he's the big name. But, hey, these guys got to get open, too. Judy got to get open. KJ got to get open. The offensive line has to block. You know, the play call has to be there. Everything has to get on the same page. And right now, it just doesn't seem like it's on the same page.
Yeah. 16 points, not good enough, and they wasted a heck of a performance by this Broncos defense. Let's go out field level to SoFi Stadium and check in with Hall of Famers Steve Atwater and Eric Dalala.
Thanks, Phil. Steve, another disappointing loss there. The Broncos just 3 points in the second half and overtime. The offense, again, just it seems like they can't consistently put things together.
Yeah, couldn't get anything really going. It's unfortunate because the Los Angeles Chargers, they really weren't able to get their run game going. Neither did we, but they were able to put together a lot of short passes, intermediate passes, kind of nickel and dime us to kind of move the ball and have a longer possession time than we had. And in the end, I think that was kind of the difference. They had the ball more than we did, nickel and diming us away, and we just really couldn't have any sustained drives in the second half.
Yeah, you mentioned the second half. In the first half, the Broncos did do some good things. Greg Dulcich obviously catches the touchdown. The Broncos seem like they're in position. They go down the end of the first half, go up 13-10, but just like you mentioned, couldn't do enough in the second half. But, Steve, this defense, they did everything they possibly could to try to make things happen. What'd you see from them?
Yeah, well, the defense, they've been playing well all season. I don't think anyone's surprised at their level of play. I know it's very disappointing for them to come out and lose another tough ball game where they were on the field quite a bit because our offense really couldn't get going. But, yeah, they did their part. They got to feel good about it, although we had a lot of pass interference calls, with Damari Mathis. He'll pop back from that young guy. I think his future is very bright, though. I think overall, great performance by the defense, but, again, it's not enough.
Yeah, and I think Justin Herbert, 3 consecutive games with at least 3 touchdowns against division opponents. He didn't have any tonight. The Broncos defense did their part, but it just wasn't enough. See, Steve, you mentioned the penalties there, and that's an area I think Broncos can clean up right away, maybe. Hopefully they've got to, but more than 150 yards, that really hurt them.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been an issue from the first game of the season, and it really hasn't gotten better. and they got to really make a concerted effort to improve the discipline of the defense. Again, a lot of those, I think 4 or 5 were pass interference calls, but again, all the other ones, we definitely got to clean up. We got to clean up those 4 or 5 as well, the pass interference calls, but all of them together, it just doesn't make for winning football. And you're not going to win a lot of games when you have 150-plus yards in penalties.
Yeah, a couple of times the Chargers had 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, a penalty by the Broncos gives them either a short 3rd down or a 1st down. They got to find a way to play clean football here. Phil, another loss on a road trip against the division. Broncos have to find a way to be better. Back to you.
Nate, after they tied the game with 3:58 to go, at 3 different chances, including overtime, to kind of go down there for a winning score. I know you'll have to go back and look at it, but how disappointing was it that you guys weren't able to kind of generate anything? What do you think the biggest issue was?
Very. I mean, this is very disappointing. We need to have a lot more urgency across the board. Starts with me as a coach, going to all the other coaches, and then to the players. Players need to be, just more urgent. We had some opportunities there, and we got to execute at a higher level. We got to come up with some better plays.
You guys only had, I think, 15 passing yards in the second half and overtime. Just were they taking something away in the passing game? What went wrong?
I'm gonna have to look at the tape on that one. That's what we'll do now on our trip back. We got a short week. We got to clean that stuff up. See how many opportunities we had, if there was something else we could have gotten to, but felt like we had a good plan, and in the end, just it didn't come together.
You talked a lot about your commitment to the run game and your belief in that. How much does it handicap what you're trying to accomplish offensively when you can't run the ball?
Early, it seemed like we weren't doing as well. The pass game was a little bit better. Started getting the run game going a little bit in the second half, but then had to convert on some 3rd downs. I think the 3rd down thing is very frustrating also. I don't think we were very good. I haven't seen the stats yet, but we definitely weren't continuing those drives, and we got to keep our defense off. I know time of possession, we didn't have the ball enough, and we got to be better on offense. And as a coaching staff, we're going to put our head down, and we're going to keep working on this short week.
151 yards in penalties. What did you see there in terms of, obviously a lot of that was with Damari, 4 pass interference penalties. What was kind of your takeaway with that?
I'm going to have to go back and look at those and see where they came from, how they happened, and how we can hopefully prevent more of those. We've been harping on that quite a bit. I think both teams had a lot of penalties in this game. I think last I heard, I think we had 10. I don't know if they had 10 or 9 or something like that. But again, we just got to play cleaner football across the board.
You've talked each week about trying to improve the offense, and obviously it hasn't happened yet. Where's maybe just your frustration level with where it is right now, and do you think it is fixable?
I mean, first and foremost, it starts with me. I feel like I can do more and continually work to try to find the best schemes for our players. We'll have to look at this game and see where some of those things broke down. But we got to come up with better plays for the guys, and the guys got to be better at executing them. So it's a combination of all of us working together, coming together, and making sure we're doing all the right stuff. I thought he did a good job. It looked like he went in there and was running very hard, running downhill. He was making contact and falling forward, so that was really good to see. And I'll have to look at the tape and see how the other 2 guys did, but he definitely got into a rhythm.
In the second quarter, you guys made a lineup change on the offensive line. What kind of factored into that a little bit with the flow of the game going on?
We had planned originally that we wanted to get Billy in there and let him have a little run. And so he came in there, he was playing at a high level, and then we decided to move Cam over to the left side. I'll be able to look at the tape a little closer and see where we'll move forward with that.
Was Melvin hurt?
Not that I know of, no.
Anything else? Obviously, 2-4 is not the start that you guys had envisioned for yourself. What's your message to the locker room, to the team, especially after a disappointing loss like this?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I think all those guys know that. They're disappointed. I'm disappointed. We have to look from within. Every single person has to look at themselves, how we can all get better, whether it's the penalties, whether it's the self-inflicted wounds, what we can correct to be able to move forward. Because there's still a lot of football left, and we got to grow. We got to be better as a team all around. It starts with me and the offense, and then we got to keep the defense off the field. Special teams got to be better. I mean, there are so many different things. You know, we're always hard on ourselves, and we'll be sure to correct those things and make sure we move forward and get better. Thank you.
All right, that's Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett talking at the podium there. Obviously frustrated, said he's got to look at the tape here after the Broncos lose 19-16 to the LA Chargers. We're back here in studio with Todd Davis, Emmanuel Sanders, and Nick Ferguson. Guys, we've heard from Coach Hackett a lot here, saying a lot of the similar type of things. It seems like every single one of these games, Nick, come right down to the wire, and there's like one or two calls that are going to be talked about all week long.
Well, see, Phil, you said it comes down to one or two calls. Usually when you go back through it, it's like 4, 5, 6, 7 calls. Now, the problem for me is not just the play calling, but it's the offensive line. But the biggest thing is penalties. I know Damari Mathis, young guy, 4 PI calls. That's tough. He's learning this game. But other than that, these are drive-killing penalties offensively or drive-extending penalties from a defensive standpoint. You can't do that when you know that your team really isn't that good and you can't overcome adversity, but it happens time and time again. We hear the same thing over and over 100%. At the podium. Come on, let's be totally honest. You know, I need to make better calls. I need to do this. At some point, you have to do that. And fans hearing that, they're getting upset because they're wondering the same thing. When is it going to change?
100%.
And who's going to change
If I'm a fan, go up to the podium and show some emotion. Show some emotion, like we got to get this together. We got to do something. Show some, we got to. But again, like I told you guys, I don't remember a first-year coach being under this much scrutiny or just Broncos like in general. I can't remember a time. And maybe it's because of these games are tight and these play calls and whatever, but it's a lot of scrutiny for a first-year head coach. And it's like one of those, like, I'm looking at it like a pressure situation. Like, is this guy going to get fired at the end of the year? Like,
don't say the F word.
That's what it's making it seem like. But again, I keep reverting back, and I know people don't want to hear it, but he's a first-year head coach. But we do want him to go up to the podium and at least bring more energy in terms of we're going to get it fixed instead of, like, hey, I got to go back and we don't want to hear that anymore. Obviously, he's under a lot of scrutiny right now. We don't want to hear that. And obviously, the Broncos got to fix it, got some things to fix, and he's stating the obvious, But, at the same time, they do have to get it right, you know what I mean?
And to your point, E, I think why he's under so much scrutiny is he's an offensive coordinator that can't get the offense to work. And then you look on the other side of the ball, Ejiro Evero, first-time defensive coordinator, and they're playing like lights out. So why can't you get the offense working? And I'm frustrated with hearing the same thing every time he comes to the podium. And then week in and week out, I think it's the same problems. I would understand as a new head coach if new problems arose every week, but the same problems consistently, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the defense just a little bit. Alex Singleton had like 19 tackles out there. Baron Browning is playing out of his mind. What have you seen from some of these linebackers?
Yeah, they're looking really good. Alex Singleton with 19 tackles all over the field, making big plays, making some nice hits. I love to watch him play. I think he's doing a great job in Josie's absence. I hope that he keeps it up. Baron Browning is playing like a Pro Bowl defensive end outside linebacker right now. It feels like he's really unblockable. He not only has sacks, picks, forced fumbles, he creates a lot of hurries and pressures that cause for errant balls by the opposing offensive quarterback. So he's doing a great job all the way around. That linebacker core is going to be something special if they keep growing like this.
And the secondary is looking good too, E. I mean, Pat Surtain going up against Mike Williams. I think Williams only had like 5 targets. What have you seen from PS2?
They definitely went throwing to Pat Surtain. The rookie back is obviously, he had all the pass interference calls. But, I mean, they were going at him. But, man, once again, this Broncos defense, they're doing their job, and it just kind of sucks because they're having offensive woes. But, I mean, Justin Simmons, those guys are playing good. They're playing great. I mean, no complaints on my end on the defense.
It almost felt like the Broncos were going to have to force a turnover to score there at the end of the game. Nick, one guy who was back, Justin Simmons, what did you see from the defense tonight?
Well, for me, I saw a tenacious defense, and defense is the group that's still keeping this team alive. And watching them go out and Baron Browning get the turnover on the 30-yard line and you still can't score points, to me that's very difficult. But I'll tell you this, and people may say something negatively about this, but Baron Browning, he's the Broncos version of the Cowboys' Micah Parsons. I mean, he can rush, he can drop, he's an impact player. He's your do-everything type of guy. So for me, if I'm Ejiro Evero, who's doing one heck of a job, how about moving him around a little so you can create more plays? Because when he's not on the field, it's easier for opposing quarterbacks to move the ball down the field.
I think he's playing great, but that's a huge compliment.
He's this version.
Wait, I did say that he was the Broncos version of Michael Parsons. I did say
a huge compliment.
Yeah, that's
but, hey, I'll take it though. Hey, I'll let you have it though, you know. But hey, but like we said, the Broncos defense, they're playing well. You know, it's on the offensive side of the ball. They got to fix those problems.
Yeah, it's going to be the leader's responsibility in that locker room to keep this team together. One of those guys is Justin Simmons. Let's go inside the Broncos locker room and check in with Sidney Jones.
Thanks, Phil. Here with safety Justin Simmons. Justin, a hard-fought battle here in Los Angeles tonight, but the defense, looked as good as ever. Consistent group here. What did you think overall about the defensive effort?
At the end of the day, it just wasn't good enough. I think, we got to find a way to win. I said earlier in the week it was a must-win. They're right before overtime started. We got together and, just hit home one more time. Like, we got to win this. Got to find a way to win it. And I don't know. I don't know. We just got to find a way to win.
Justin, we saw the passion from you at the end of regulation there, given that speech before overtime. What all did you say to the group?
We gotta win this. Like, everything that happened beforehand doesn't matter. Penalties, missed opportunities, MEs. It didn't matter. What mattered was finding a way to win. And we had chances, but, those don't matter because we didn't capitalize. So, we just got to find a way to turn this thing around.
What was Coach Hackett's message to the team, following the game today here in the locker room?
It's a lot of emotion. So, his message was just, hard look in the mirror, and we got to stay together, It is what it is, 2-4, 0-2 in the West. But the only way to change it is to fight through it. It's a season of adversity. It's going to be a roller coaster, and we're going to control our own destiny. In terms of figuring out how to turn this around. No one's just going to give it to us. So we just got to find a way to turn this thing around together as a team.
Justin, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Back to you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Appreciate that. Justin Simmons obviously looking a little bit, down in the locker room after a tough game like that. Guys, what is it like when one side of the ball is playing so good and the other side is struggling out there in the locker room? How do you guys pick each other up, or is there some fighting? What goes on in there?
Yeah, you try to be as encouraging as you can, to have your other side of the ball really pick up the slack. But at some point, it's going to be some arguments. It's going to be a lot of frustration, and it's going to be some words said. Pick it up. There's nothing else to say. You know what I'm saying? At some point, the conversation is going to have to be had. And I think Justin Simmons is the man to have that conversation. I know he's really hurt right now. He's been a part of some not the best teams. Yep. Came right after the Super Bowl, so he's seen kind of like the downturn. He expected this to be their year to really do some great things, and he's frustrated, and I would be too.
I think that's part of it, right? There was a lot of expectations for this team, and then to start 2-4, that kind of is part of the emotional. That's the difficulty with this.
100% expectations, but at the same time, the defense is playing good. The offense isn't playing good, but you can't divide a locker room because that's only going to cause even more problems. So obviously, if I'm Justin Simmons, he's a true leader. I know Justin's like, man, you got to stay positive through it. And even right now, you hear me talking obviously, I want to down the Broncos and I want to get on them, but at the same time, what good would that do? You got to kind of stay positive. You got to stay optimistic, but you also got to speak the truth as well and say, okay, we got problems that we have to fix. But as far as the defensive player walking over, imagine in a locker room, y'all need to get y'all stuff together. We win as a team, we lose as a team. There's no point of even arguing about it, But I can't keep saying it over and over again. The defense is playing outstanding, and the elephant in the room is obviously the offense has to get their stuff together.
All right, so let's keep it real for a second. Here's what happens. Everyone's frustrated. Now, as a professional, you're not going to say what you want to say
100%.
At the podium. You're not going to do that because as a family, you don't air your dirty laundry in front of everyone. Now, when you get home with mama or you get in your car, yes, you're slapping the dashboard.
Man, I'm doing everything I can do.
Exactly.
Man, they're not helping me out.
That's exactly.
Did you see me catch that interception?
You on the phone with your boys talking about, man, I was open, I did this, I did that. But the idea is that you're frustrated. You never let it get out to the public. But if you think that there are guys on the defense who are not frustrated, you're fooling yourself. They're just kind of keeping it in-house.
It even seems like it's on the offensive side of the ball, too, because they go 3 and out. You see on the sideline, and Melvin, we'll talk about Melvin in just a little bit here, but, Jerry Jeudy seems frustrated. The way that the game ended the other day against the Colts in overtime, there's frustration even on the offensive side of the ball, too.
Yeah, they're frustrated, especially Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Those guys need somebody to throw them the ball. They're dynamic players, but you can only do so much when you're not your own quarterback. So I understand they're frustrating. They're not getting the balls that they want or the targets that they want or the plays directed towards them that they want. They're rightfully frustrated, and I hope it changes. I know Coach Hackett said we need better plays. So let's put some plays together to really feature the dynamic players on our offense.
Yeah, I know that wide receivers are always open.
Yeah, at least I know I was.
But if you're a guy like Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, how do you have that conversation with Russ?
Yeah, especially Cortland. I mean, Cortland, even down the stretch in overtime, they didn't go to him not one time. You got a player like that who's, in my opinion, is a Pro Bowl player, an All-Pro caliber player. You're a playmaker, and you don't go at him. And even down the stretch, I was saying, all right, throw a fade ball to Cortland, a back shoulder fade, just give him a shot, dig route over the middle or something. But they didn't go to him. So I mean, if I'm in Cortland's position, of course I'm frustrated. But frustration also comes when you keep losing and you keep doing the same thing, and you're trying to figure it out, and that pressure starts to come to you as well. So. But at the same time, they got to figure out a way to get the ball in their playmakers' hands and make the right play call. I mean, the play calling in the first quarter, it looked amazing, but, in that overtime, everything just seemed backwards.
See, I have to ask E a question because he's the only offensive guy up here. And like you said, he's always open.
Yeah.
So for guys like Jerry,
I'm still open.
for Jerry Jeudy and for Cortland Sutton, what would be the ideal routes for them to call?
I mean, it depends on what are their strengths. Obviously, Cortland, a big physical guy. I mean, obviously, you line him up on anyone, and I feel like he's the favorite matchup, right? Yeah. Then you got a guy like Jerry Jeudy. You put him in the slot. This guy's quick as lightning. I mean, his routes, the way that he runs his routes, the way that he moves guys, you got to get him on those particular routes, option routes and stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously, I can't keep saying that they got to figure it out because you're in the NFL. You're getting paid to do your job as an offensive coordinator. You got to know the strength of your players, and you got to utilize them. And right now, like down the stretch in overtime, they ran Jerry Jeudy on an out and up route, but to me that wasn't really a good play call. The corner was off. If I'm looking at it, either I'm going to throw a back shoulder or I'm going to get off of it and go to my big play guy, And when I look at 2014 with Peyton Manning and me and Demarius, I feel like Peyton used to look left. Okay, he doesn't have the favorite matchup. I'm looking right. Demarius has a favorite matchup. I'm going to Demarius, And it was just simple football. And sometimes when you see these offenses, they make everything so difficult when it doesn't have to be that difficult. You got playmakers, get the ball in your playmakers' hands. Yeah. It's that simple.
Those guys, they're talented. I mean, Cortland Sutton is a Pro Bowler. Jerry Jeudy, so much expectations for him. Give these guys a chance to see what they can do. This game took a turn in overtime when Montreal Washington was bumped into. Here's him talking at his locker after the game.
I just got to be louder. Communication. It was loud in there. You know what I mean? I don't think he could hear me, so that's on me. I'm a returner, so I got to be, I got to be able to speak up. It's my job for him to hear me. You know what I mean? So I just got to do better on my end. To be honest with you, that's not on him at all. I don't think, in my opinion.
You've conquered adversity to get to this point. How hard is it to be involved in a play like that in a close game?
Yeah, it sucks. Definitely sucks. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you just got to move on from it and get ready for the next game we got coming up, and don't let things like that happen again.
Sorry for repeating this, but can you just walk us through what happened there on that last play?
Yeah, last play, it was just a little loud out there, I believe, and I just wanted the fair catch to give us a great field position, and I don't think my guy heard me, which is on me, not on him at all. Like I repeat, it is not on PJ at all. In my opinion, I believe it's on me. It's my job for him to hear me out there. I got to scream. If I got to scream louder, I just got to scream louder. And, but it'll be fixed. No worries.
What were you supposed to be yelling for him to get back or get out? What was the call on that when you're trying to communicate to him?
It's just my job to yell, Peter, and that's just a call, to get the guys out the way, to let them know that the ball is short. I just got to be louder. That's all.
What was the level of frustration in this locker room after this loss?
It sucks. It definitely sucks, but we got to bounce back from it and get ready for the next 2 games we got coming up before the bye week.
Do you feel like there's been a lot of games that you guys could have taken away? 1 or 2 plays didn't go your way?
Things happen for sure, but we'll bounce back from it for sure. Everybody work together. We'll work hard. We'll get back in practice, and we'll be ready for the next game.
With that punt, it seems like the letter of the law by the NFL says if you're going for a fair catch and someone's blocked into you, it shouldn't be a turnover. Did you get any explanation about that?
Nah, not at all, to be honest with you. Like I said before, it's my job for him to get out the way, for me to get him out the way. So I gotta be louder. That's just all it is to it. I just gotta be louder to help him out to where he can hear me. I know it was loud in there, but still, it's my job to be louder than what it is in there to help him out. So that's on me.
How tough is it? It seems like there's oftentimes that Coach Hackett will point the finger at himself. Russell Wilson will point the finger at himself. Now you're doing that. There's not accusations going around the locker room. This guy's kind of taking it on themselves, saying that was my bad. I got to be better.
There's just no need to point fingers. I don't think at all. Like I said, it's my job. I'm the return man. You know what I mean? I'm the returner. Anything that happened back there, I'm back deep. It's my job to make sure things are, done the right way. So, we'll bounce back from it for sure.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank
time.
you.
That's Broncos returner Montrell Washington talking at his locker. We got a couple of special teams pros up here. Guys, explain why that play, what unfolded, and whose responsibility that was.
Well, it's completely legal to block the opposing player into his own returner. That's even taught in special teams meeting. They tell the gunners, if the corner that's blocking you is near the returner, push him into it. That's completely legal, and that's what happened there on that play. I know that he was saying it wasn't his fault, but I feel like P.J. Locke, as a defender, you got to know where you are in accordance to where the guy catching the punt is. So I feel like, you got to be better with your job on that one.
You returned a couple of big-time kicks there. What's your responsibility in those situations?
Yeah, he was saying it right. Obviously you gotta screen Peter, and he was taking accountability. He was saying it's my fault, but really we all know that's Locke's fault, right? Like he was screaming Peter. He has to get out of the way, and it's just a bad play. It's gonna be on. Come on, man. Like that's one of those plays, that you don't want the game to end like that. But it definitely wasn't Washington's fault, And like Todd said, they teach that in a special team. So the special teams coach is the guy who made that play on the Chargers. The special teams coach is like, that was my coaching. You know what I mean? So, but you don't want it to end like that. And kudos to Washington for taking accountability, but it definitely wasn't his fault.
Yeah, Montrell tried to be the good teammate and just say, hey, it was basically my fault on that particular play. But you're right. Every guy is taught that. As a gunner, we're taught to run that return, that guy who's trying to block us into it. But, not to throw PJ under the bus, but that's something that you should know as a guy being a gunner, a guy blocking. Once you get to a certain depth, you look at the returner, right? And then you get out of the way. And Montrell is saying, well, I need to be louder. Let me tell you. You're not going to hear him call Peter. You have to know that. Like, hey, I'm blocking my guy. Where is the returner's depth? At some point, you have to now stop and go vertical and go block someone else. So PJ, I'm sure he is sick to his stomach about this particular play, but, you can't harp on this now. The Jets are going to be here in 6 days. You got to move on.
Of course, that led to the Chargers' game-winning field goal, but there was a lot of other things going on with this Broncos team that led to this 19-16 loss. Let's talk about the running back position a little bit here. Of course, Javonte Williams done for the year a couple of weeks ago when he tore his ACL. Been bad knee injury against the Raiders. It seemed like this was going to be Melvin's opportunity here to carry the load a little bit. That was not the case tonight, Todd.
Yeah, they went and got Latavius Murray, who's a good, strong back. Veteran back. There's a lot you don't have to teach a veteran back, so he can step right in and get to playing. But I feel for Melvin Gordon. I feel like they should still be playing him. Maybe not as much, maybe a little bit less because of the fumbling problems, but not enough to keep him on the sidelines and give him, I think, how many plays do he have? Only like 8 plays.
Yep.
I think he deserves more than that. He's still a high caliber player. I think he's better than Murray on most nights when he doesn't fumble. So I just want to see him, get the ball, secure it, and hopefully play some more.
Melvin Gordon, 3 carries for 8 yards. Latavius Murray, 15 carries for 66 yards. You know Latavius E.
Yeah, I played with Latavius in New Orleans. He's a good back. Like Todd said, he's a veteran back. He's one of those guys that any team can bring him in, you can plug him in, give him the ball. He's a downhill runner. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. But, as far as Melvin Gordon, in the NFL, it's about trust. And, obviously those fumbles, even, me watching the game now, he's fumbled so many times. I'm watching the game, and I love Melvin. I know Melvin, but, I'm watching the game. I'm like, hold on to the ball. And the coaches feel the same way. The players feel the same way. When you're on the sideline and you see and you don't have that trust in a player, and you're saying every time they hand the ball, you're saying in your eye, please hold on to the ball, that's shaky. And when you get in close games or games where it's like the pressure is on and we got to win, you kind of fade away from the guys that you don't trust. That's the nature of the National Football League. And so, I feel for Melvin. I didn't like how, Monday night the television kept putting it on him and making it a big deal. I didn't like that. But, that's the nature of the National Football League.
Yeah, they could have done a better job not trying to spot shadow. Obviously, we all know what was going on with Melvin. But at the same time, the Broncos now have a new lead back, and it's Latavius Murray. And when the Broncos picked him up, the one thing I loved about him is that he's a big, tall guy. He keeps 2 hands on the ball, and he always falls forward, right? He's always falling forward. So I like the new addition. I want to see what this is going to look like with the third week. To understand Hackett's offense, how they're going to implement him against the Jets. But for me, I still feel as though I'm not as down on this team. And I told you guys I was going to tell you something that's probably going to upset you guys. But look around the league at all the standings. The Broncos technically are still in it because no one has really separated themselves unless you are the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Broncos can figuratively turn this thing around, but it's going to start with next week.
3-3 feels a lot different if they would have won today versus 2-4. I mean, that's just such a drastic change there. Let's talk about that in just 1 second. Let's go to Latavius Murray. He was talking at his locker after the game.
I think O-line did a great job blocking. I just tried to find holes and hit it. But I think overall we just got to find a way to score points, score touchdowns, put it that way, and sustain drives. So we just got to keep digging, keep finding ways to get better, and I think we could turn it around.
What do you think changed from the first quarter and then for the rest of the game with this offense?
Again, I just think we came out, we started fast, but we just weren't able to sustain drives. So we just got to figure out a way to sustain drives, keep the ball moving, keep this defense off the field, and when we get down there, score touchdowns.
Were they throwing some different blitz looks at you?
Yeah, they started to pick up the pressure for sure in the second half. So, that kind of hurt us too on a few. So, but again, we gotta find a way, gotta figure it out. Defense will bring zero every now and then, and so gotta find a way to hurt them when they do.
It's the hard part is you didn't score, you can't give your defense a break. They're getting out there playing. They finally found the rubber band the elastic.
They played great. Obviously, like when you look at it, okay, it was field goals, right? So if we can convert some of those field goals to touchdowns, it's a different game. I'm sure their offense is saying the same thing, so our defense did what they were supposed to do. And then, like you said, if we can sustain drives, we can keep them off the field. And, we obviously on the field longer, controlling the ball, controlling the tempo. And then, again, when we get down there, we score touchdowns. So that's how it should go. That's how you want it to go. But obviously it didn't. Look, we got a long season ahead of us, and we've all been there. I've made plays that I want back, and so we believe in him, and so I have no doubt he'll make that play next time, and it's a part of the game. We just got to figure out a way not to beat ourselves.
What does it mean for you that the coaches had the confidence? You're new to the team, and yet in the most important time in overtime, they're coming to you.
Yeah, it means a lot. I try to stay ready. Obviously, I played a lot, but I think if
give myself a chance when I dive in the playbook and know what I'm supposed to do out there. And so, but it means a lot. All the trust in the world. I want it. I want to be out there. I want the ball. And so, very appreciative of that.
Obviously.
That's Broncos running back Latavius Murray. Guys, let's wrap up the show now talking about this Broncos team sitting at 2-4, 2 division losses here as they now have to turn the page and get ready for the Jets. Where is this team right now, E?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this team, I think the reason why we all kind of feel the same is because this team could have won a lot more games. When you look at the record and how close those games have been, it's a lot of heartbreaking that's been in this season. But, the team that I saw in the first quarter and the way that Russell was playing, because at first I wasn't optimistic because of how Russell was playing. I was like, what is going on with Russ? Like, is he not picking up the playbook? Like, what is going on? But now, today, I saw the Russell Wilson using his legs, being able to escape the pocket. Now I'm looking at it like, now we need to implement better play calling. We got to get the playmakers involved. And like you said, they still got an opportunity to turn around. I'm not optimistic that they can turn it around, but I don't want to look next week and they beat the Jets, and then the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, man, I wasn't optimistic. So it's like one of those things that the NFL is like a roller coaster. You're riding it. And I try not to ride it. But as of right now, you did the stats. You got the paper there. They can turn it around. And as a Broncos fan, as a Bronco alumni, I hope they do turn it around.
Yeah, 2-4. It's been a struggle, but like you mentioned, some of these games are so close. Each game, just one possession here or there. That's a difference in some of these games. Maybe a touchdown instead of a field goal, and this team could easily be 5-1 even.
100%.
I mean, it's been tough. Nick, what have you seen?
Well, for me, I've seen a team that's played great football defensively. Offensively, they have struggled. When you look at every single game that they played, with the exception of the Las Vegas Raider game, they've been in every single game. So for me, this is why they still have me on the string. They still pulling me in because it's like, okay, all we have to do is get a couple plays here, cut down our penalties, and then we'll be good. But right now, this team needs to find themselves. They need, on that flight back, they need to sit back in the back of that plane and talk to one another about what they need to do and continue to hold one another accountable.
So you're almost done, but then you get that text, and then you're saying, okay.
Yeah, keep me on the string, man. Just keep me on the string.
What have you seen, Todd?
I think this team still has the potential to be a good team coming down the stretch. I think that they have to take the time to figure out what they do right on offense and figure out the kinks to get the things done that they need to get done. I know, every offensive coordinator has his first 15 plays, and they're going to run those plays the first 15 of the game, and that's things that they've schemed specifically for the opposing defense and are usually their best plays. It seems like the first 15 worked out for the Broncos, and they kind of got away from it. I like to see them get back to it, maybe some more time. I know they had a little bit of a mini bye by playing on Thursday night. Feel like it paid out for them in the first quarter. I think they played well. So hopefully they can play these next 2 games, get to the bye, reevaluate, see where we're at, and hopefully have a better end of the season than start.
Yeah, the Broncos, they got the Jets coming up, and then they go to London for a big week facing the Jags out there, and then the bye week. So maybe a chance to regroup here in a couple of weeks. We will hear from Russell Wilson. He'll be at the podium live. We'll carry the entire thing live. He'll just be a few minutes, so we're going to say goodbye. But stick around. Russell Wilson will be talking at the podium in just a few minutes. E, thanks for coming on, man. This was fun, huh?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Great catching up with you. We love seeing you on NFL Network, so keep it going. So that is going to do it for us. The Broncos fall to the LA Chargers 19-16. For Nick Ferguson, Emmanuel Sanders, Todd Davis, I am Phil Milani. This has been Broncos Postgame Live.